Big fluff.
Hello, world. It's Stephanie Cmar, and I am here to tell you that I know some shit.
Exotica.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joel Murphy.
And I'm Stephanie Cmar,
And this is Stephanie Knows Some Shit.
where we go over all of the things that we think we know, we could know, we definitely know, and then some stuff we just bullshit our way through. Really, really beautiful. And today we are extending last week's conversation with my beloved angel of a husband, David Cavilla.
Hello.
Beautiful, babe. And today we thought it would be really fun to go over. So David and I have been together for 10-ish years, but we worked together for the majority of it, took a break where we both like extended our careers and did other stuff. And then we came back together and we work together now, which like I forget about constantly. Like it just feels natural.
Working together?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We work together really well. But I mean, I prefer to work with you, which is very, I mean, it helps a lot.
Yeah.
Also, I like being with you anyway, so I don't need like a separation when we get home if we spend the whole day working.
Babe, I love you. That's so sweet.
Which I do think if people listen to last week, though, too, that was not instant. Like it took you guys a little while.
Oh, no.
Oh, my gosh. I think the first story
However many years we keep putting on the relationship, whatever that, the last 3 years.
We have gotten so good at it. But
yeah.
My first memory of us having an event. So we have these amazing friends. We still cook for them twice a year now, Leslie and Ryan. And it was Ryan's like 40th birthday, I want to say. And so this was our first event. Like I think we were both still in restaurants.
Yeah, we were still in restaurants. Yep.
Nothing prepped. Like
we used to go and cook everything at the people's houses. We thought that's what people wanted to see. And so if the event was starting at 7:30, we were like, great, we'll be there at noontime.
Well, we also had no space in our kitchen.
Oh, that's right. We didn't. We had
That was the My Shitty Kitchen era.
My shitty little kitchen. And it was, oh God, it was so shitty. So we get to Leslie and Ryan's house. And again, we have no idea what we're doing. We've never done a private. I've done like 2 private events before this. And even then I felt like I should have started 4 days early because it was so stressful. So we get to their house. We start unloading. We immediately start bickering. Not just a bicker, but like we can't get along.
No. Constant, like, I had this issue for a long time where I'd see her like cutting something. I'd be
This
like,
is my kryptonite.
I'd be like, oh, why are you cutting it that way? And she'd be like, what? And I'd be like, I don't know, just nothing. And like, just to
That makes me, that little snippet right there makes me murderous.
Yeah, I'd be like, what?
Murderous.
You're going to do it that way?
Yeah, like, why are you doing it that way? I will kill you.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So that was sort of our entire night. And then
And again, you're in someone's kitchen. This is happening
and
in
we're
front of
fighting.
Yeah.
We are fighting. I don't think they picked up on it. And these people are like the sweetest, cutest people in the entire world. Like truly.
We weren't fighting. We were clashing heads.
We were clashing.
It wasn't like a physical or verbal thing. It was more like you could cut the tension with a knife.
Very dull.
Yeah, I mean, it was
dull.
But also, you didn't like the way she was cutting the tension with the knife. You thought it was.
I don't even know. Honestly, Joel, I don't even know anymore.
Sometimes he just
it could have just been
with me. You know when like something gets boring and you just try and like rile it up just to make it lively.
Yeah.
Just poking the bear.
Yeah.
And it is very easy to set me off. Just ask me anything.
Yeah.
Other than directions.
She will get you lost.
I can't. But so we have this event and it's like fun. ish. It's not any fun, but we don't really like start to do events again until Top Chef.
Oh, the event was fun though. The people were great.
Oh, so lovely.
But it was a pretty rough.
We were
rough
not doing well. So then we started doing more private events after Top Chef.
Which I think on the last episode, we kind of ended. I think you had done the first Top Chef and you both had just moved into the city. I want to say, like, is that you moved into a new place? Yeah, I think that's where we left off.
So this was pre shitty little kitchen where we lived there. That apartment, though, did come with its own line of stressors. David and I went to bed one night just to sleep, as two people do. And we woke up to the sound of what sounded like raining in our bedroom. And we're like, WTF? Like, what is going on? The kids upstairs had turned off their heater thingy-majiggy.
The radiator.
The radiator.
In the winter.
It froze.
Oh,
Exploded.
It exploded. We lived in our living room for 2 months.
So it was coming to like, I woke up in the middle of the night and I could hear the rain. So I looked out the window and I'm like, it's pouring outside. And I like went to touch the window and I realized that my hand went through the water. So it was in front of, like, it was on my side of the window.
Oh no.
And I was like, oh my God. And then it just started coming through every ceiling light in the bedroom. The ceiling fell down. They had 4 industrial wind, like those, the hot air machines that sound like an airport. So they had 5 of those in the bedroom. So Steph and I lived on our mattress in the living room. And we were like, I think you should probably like put us up somewhere.
Right.
Or, and they're like, well, it's only like a quarter of your rent. So it's only a quarter of your space. So we're going to take a quarter off your rent. And I was like, I'm like, this is not. How is this happening?
You have to love landlords. Like they are.
Yeah.
Dude, this guy
so then they fixed it. And then immediately they're like, by the way, we're selling. You have 2 months to get, you have a month to get out.
So,
and I was like, you've got to be kidding. Like, so we made the guy.
So now I am beyond infuriated. I am at a point where like, I don't think I've been that way many times in my life. So this D-bag,
Don't say the name.
I won't say the name, but I'm thinking about it. He's like, I will show you apartments and I won't take the realtor's fee or whatever you call that thing. And we're like, fine. And I'm like, I hate you. So David and I are walking up to this dude who's about to show us the first apartment. And David stops and he goes, Stephanie, do you have something to say to so-and-so? And I'm like, I'm sorry for verbally assaulting you. And he was like, it's okay. And I was like, it's okay. And then he showed us apartments, and that's how we ended up moving into my shitty little kitchen apartment. So it did work out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Again, I sound like I have such a temper. I don't have a temper. I just like things done a very certain way, according to my rules. That's normal, right?
Oh, good.
Okay, cool.
I'm not going to mess with you.
So now David and I are at a point where like, we just work well together, but we have seen so many weird things. So our business picked up in the midst of COVID. Right when it began, our business was like, pew, and skyrocketed. And we've gone into the strangest houses. We have seen the weirdest things. And we've also cooked some amazing food.
We've seen people get married, which is, it's wonderful when you can tell that it's wanted by both people. I think we've done a couple of weddings where you're like, not that far.
We have.
But anyway,
we do a lot of judging.
We've got nothing else to do besides watch 40 people.
Yeah.
Also, statistically, half of them aren't going to work out. So that's math. Like, yeah.
I know. And especially like we're in the room. So that's like 50-50 because we're going to work out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen people get married. We've seen people cry. We've seen people throw up. We've seen people
pass out.
A
lot of, yeah.
And David and I just treat it the same way. We're like, all right, dessert's out. Let's clean up, get those plates, and we're just out of here. And we don't think about it very much afterwards.
Well, that is, yeah. And I mean, this has come up on the show a little bit before, but yeah, with both of you, this is interesting of like, again, so as you're saying, you're cooking in people's kitchens. You're spending a lot of time, these dinner parties, you're spending around people. You must see, everything, good, bad, everything in the middle. Yeah. You're part of a person's life and part of a person's evening, essentially.
And our whole purpose is to blend in as if we're like your friends. You know what I mean? It's kind of this unspoken thing that we do just because
it's our social night out also.
And we don't have a social life. So like we really are just getting paid to have a social life a little bit. Like, and it's so cool. It's so cool. But David, I think the thing that I wanted to ask you, because I get asked it a lot, what and how was your transition from restaurants to private chef and catering? Because I don't have a solid answer for it, so I'd like to hear yours.
How was the transition? How was I feeling?
How did you go about it?
Well, I was always, I think people get stuck in this situation a lot where you rely on work and you get scared to leave a job. And I always put up with a lot of things that I didn't agree with because I was too scared to just say, screw it, I'm out of here, And like, I think everybody feels like that. I mean, you should be scared to leave a job. I mean, without having another job, it's, people really frown upon it. But once I did it. Once you get it done the first time, you realize that, it's not so bad. And I think once I got over that feeling of being like tied to a job, like I had to have it. Insecurity is good. It keeps you scared. Being scared is good. It'll keep you moving. It's when you get complacent and like, you're in this job and then you're surrounded by people that are talking, just like it's the whole work bickering thing. And it's like, you know what, we'll fucking do something about it. And then finally I was like, you know what, this is, I'm sick of listening to other people's problems. And this doesn't go again. I guess it was just me just being fed up with restaurants. Probably has nothing.
I think it
probably has nothing to do with the people around me. I think it was
the work. You worked with phenomenal people.
I did work with phenomenal people, and I love them too. But it's just like sometimes you just get sick of the grind. And once I left and had no job, it was like, all right.
How did you go about getting private chef clients?
From you.
It wasn't all just me though.
Mainly through. I don't know. I'm not sure. It was mainly your overflow that you couldn't take at first. It was people that were related to some of your clients. That was my first one. But,
And I think that's interesting because I get asked a lot. The private chef world, I don't know how you organically fall into it other than word of mouth and somebody's interested in your cooking. So just a little side note, because I think that's what happened to you was that you got your first client and then they said something to somebody and then they like their food. That it just snowballs.
Yeah.
It's mostly referrals. Like, is that?
Yeah.
Referral. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially with like the event planning type stuff. But yeah, it just kind of happened naturally and tried to just fit into it as best as I could at the time.
I wonder too, like with what you were saying about working in restaurants, and then to me, like when I hear it, what sounds like the difference is you're working for yourself. Like you were working for someone else.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. Like I think that's where my angst came from. Was you're doing a lot of work, and you get credit, you get absolute credit, but you're still working for somebody else.
Right.
I grew up. I mean, my father was self-employed. My mother was self-employed. I mean, she had other jobs too. But like mainly my whole upbringing was surrounded by people that were self-employed. My brother was self-employed, started his own business for the longest time. And I think just in my family, it ran
entrepreneurship.
Kind of. I mean, they weren't conglomerate companies, but it's working for yourself. And I mean, even like if you look at Mark Vetri, he has a great quote.
We're obsessed with
where he says, I can't remember the quote, but it's in one of his cookbooks. But I think his dad or somebody or whatever it was just said, like, I think it was his dad. He's like, don't make money for other people, make money for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's you. Like, that's a big one.
And I think that's interesting, actually, to say a little bit, because David and I don't necessarily have the most stable incomes, but there's a certain level of just like fucking awesomeness about being able to control that too. Like if we have inquiries for an event, that's lucrative, and we also get to cook. That being said, there's something very, very, very different between private chefing and catering. And I don't even necessarily love the word cater because I feel like it cheapens the.
You just think of chafing dishes and like sausage and peppers and onions.
But by catering, I mean like, I almost want to call it like pop-up parties. Like, it's really dinner from start to finish. We're doing the entire thing, but
a lot of conversation.
It's incredibly different and satisfying in two different ways. Like for private chefing, for me, I get to make larger quantities of food, different recipes. I get to be a certain level of creative, but there's still something about putting this beautiful food that you just made into disposable tins. And you're just like, womp, womp. Like farts. That's not exactly what I was looking for. And when it comes to the catering, we get to be so creative because we're putting food.
You're providing a tasting menu.
We did a soft shell crab, and by we I mean David more or less did it, but it was soft shell crabs with peaches and tomatoes, and it was just like it was so happy.
Tartar sauce
and this fucking tartar sauce he made. And I don't toot David's horn very often because again we're incredibly competitive, and that shows weakness. But it was so good. I was dipping tomatoes in it, Joel, and I was like, oh. This is like some flav. Like, this is amazing. I could eat that right now.
I'm curious about something, because again, like you said, this kind of parallels, obviously, when we talked to Kristen, this period in your life. And we talked on that episode about you guys doing Top Chef and how it just suddenly came into your life. And the way that when Kristen won Top Chef, your lives diverted or kind of went on these different paths. Yep. But I'm curious, so the two of you, what did that do? Like you being on Top Chef while you two were dating, how did that play out?
I don't think
it was weird, but it wasn't that weird.
I don't think it changed anything between us, but it opened up.
Professionally, it opened up situations
for us because we got to go to. We were invited to a lot more things. Mm-hmm. It gave us the opportunity to travel a bit. But it was pretty cool. I mean, and you never notice it, but it's always when you could always see people walk by, and there's always, I'd say maybe one out of I don't know how many people, but like to see somebody walk by and notice you, and you get like the head sweat, like the head turn.
I never realized.
That's pretty cool. It was pretty cool to see from my perspective. It was. I mean, I think it gave us. I think it gave you a little bit of. I feel like it gave you a little bit more of like reward towards your career, like what you've done. It showed that you've worked hard, and you probably have the most screen time for chefs. Maybe Gregory
just
has
I
more
love
than
the
you.
sound of my voice.
Yeah, but you're up there. You probably IMDb. You might be able to get like a SAG card and get insurance through.
That'd be amazing. One of the things that I have to say about David is like we watched. Sometimes we didn't. But I truly don't think it made any difference to you if I was on TV or not. Whatsoever.
I would say All Stars. Really, I really started.
That was just cool.
That was really cool. I think that was cool because I was the least bit nervous on that one because it was kind of just like an all-star game. Like everyone's a winner if you think about it. And the two before that, when she left, I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good. Like if she,
it was a little dramatic.
Like if like I mean, especially that first season, like the first episode, she came back. I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good. Like to be the first one, and then I think obviously it hurts. It probably hurts. I mean, I saw that, but then the second time, I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good. But she made it a long way and everything, and luckily she went off on pretty good terms. But every time I was like, oh boy. But it's just crazy. It's TV. It's weird. It's It's a very interesting situation.
It both matters and it doesn't.
Yeah.
If that makes
sense. Well, it opens up opportunities, as you said, I think is probably the...
It's so many. And it gave us... I don't know. It made us closer, I guess, in a weird way. And not in the sense that I was gone for like months, but like, I don't know. We had to explore this new life together, which was super cool.
Yeah.
You took a chance because you took a chance because it was going to better both of us. Like it was going to be a tough road down. It was going to be a tough journey if something like that didn't happen.
Absolutely.
And we probably would be dead by now if we didn't have a you got the opportunity. Like something has to happen. You got to take a chance. You have to take a chance. Columbus did. Fuck it.
Very Columbus.
But take a chance. Columbus did.
But
look how
that's a throwback.
That's an interesting pull for that.
Girl, you just have to do what I do and just absorb, let it go.
I just like everyone who took a chance. I'm fascinated that that's the name of like took a chance.
Columbus.
Yeah,
good chance.
I love it, honey.
Well, what was it like? Did you had a brief? I want to call it a cameo. Is that the right word on Top Chef?
It was a cameo.
Yeah, I think that's the right word. Right.
Oh, so bad.
You were so cute.
The one at Moza was so bad.
Oh, yeah, you can tell that.
Oh, well, there's nothing to tell. Everybody thought we were going to be shoo-ins because what happened, I was in one room with the other family members and they gave us one of their iconic dishes and we had to explain to the dish to our loved ones on the phone.
Right.
And I'm horrible at this because
it's not your thing.
I get excited and I just start, I don't think out my words first. And it was a long day to begin with. It was a long flight. And I couldn't even remember how to say pork chop. I was like, it's a type of
like
rib. It's a rib.
A pig.
It's a pig. It's like a rib. It's
and
like
then it's
like a C-bone. And I'm like, I can't.
There were
everything left my body. Everything left my brain. It's like I was seeing something I've never seen before in my life.
There were beans on the dish, and he was like, they're like the ones at Don Giovanni's. I was like, with rosemary, like this very like arbitrary restaurant.
So I could have been like butter beans. I could have just
so many other words.
And I was like, the whole before they're like, oh, you guys are a shoo-in. So I'm like, I'm like, yeah, I'm a shoo-in. Like
that's every time I was doomed on Top Chef. Yeah. It was because I was like, I got this one. This is not a big issue. And then I'd be like, did not have that. That was not good. But I think what Joel's alluding to is you jumping in.
Oh yeah.
That actually is what I was thinking about.
I was going to get to that.
It was literally one. Like,
yeah. I was in my head. I was thinking about that damn pork chop.
I'm sorry. It was good.
It was delicious.
I cooked my pork chop.
Oh yeah, that was great. It was hot. There definitely should have been people that age. Top Chef definitely should have thought that out before. That
it was
an old IKEA warehouse, and they had 35 ovens going and no ventilation. It was
because you can't have the noise.
You can't have the fans because of the
yeah.
So it was everyone's in like sweaters and stuff.
We're all hot.
It was so hot in there.
Leanne's mom, bless her soul,
she was great, but I mean,
amazing. But it got too hot for her, and she just got like
right
poisoning kind
of.
So David and I are cooking. I know this isn't going well. We're just putting tops on the cans, and she goes down.
I can make dumplings,
and I'm like, go help Leanne. Like just do it. And David just jumped into it. And I don't think either of us thought about it as a real thing because in a restaurant, that's what you
just
do.
An obvious thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And hopefully in life, that's what people do. You just jump in when one person goes down. But David got like quite a fan club after that.
Well, it was a very like sincere, sweet moment. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That's
great.
Why I love you. It's just felt like that's what sweet David does. Do you have an idea for a great new podcast? You can bring your ideas to life and start your podcast today with Libsyn. Our podcast has been on Libsyn since April, and we love it.
Libsyn has everything you need to plan, launch, and grow your own podcast. Libsyn provides some of the best resources created by expert podcasters who will show you everything you need to know. like what equipment you should use, how to record great audio, how to get your show onto Apple Podcasts and other popular platforms, and much more.
Plus, as a friend of Stephanie knows some shit, when you sign up with Libsyn, you get your first month of podcast hosting for free.
There has never been a better time than right now for you to start podcasting. Visit Libsyn.com and use the code FRIEND, FRIEND. That's LIBSYN.com and use the code FRIEND, FRIEND, to get started and create your podcast today.
You know what we haven't talked about? How you got your nickname.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, people ask this all the time. So way back in the day when we first started dating, I was like astounded by how sweet David was. Like, I was just like, he's so sweet. Like, he just used to do sweet things. And so I would constantly say that when he wasn't around. I was like, sweet David, sweet David. And we have two friends, Abby and Deirdre, and they both kind of caught on. And Abby is just one of the funniest people in the entire world. And she used to be like, oh, it's sweet David. And we were like, yep, that's amazing.
Because every chance we had, we would try to leave with her. We had three places on the same block. So if you had any downtime, you wanted to get out and like go hang out, you'd run over to Stir where she was, because they had every cookbook that was out. There were
no bosses.
There were usually some sort of things to eat, because they'd be like, oh, I made some cinnamon rolls. It's like, when did you have time to whip up cinnamon rolls? Like, I'm unclogging a toilet next door and I have someone called out. I'm like, this is ridiculous. It's like Ina Garden over here.
Oh my God.
I'm stuck in a basement next door. It was great. It was a great job. We should recreate that up here.
We should.
That would print money.
Yeah.
I don't even. Oh yeah. So you go over there and it's like, sweet David.
So I'd always be like, sweet David, and then it's just started to catch on, and everybody was like, "There's sweet David," and I never really heard it. Like, I heard people calling him sweet David, but that's what I called him. So I was like, "Oh, this is normal." And then it just turned into like sweet David. But that's really what I call him. Like, I call him David, but
sweet David. Yeah. Or when you're talking to somebody else.
Yeah, sweet David.
It's only bad if there's another David and that's how they're differentiating the two of you. Of like, there's David and there's sweet David.
Yeah, like Big Sheridan, Little Sheridan. I grew up with a Big Tom and a Little Tom and a Big Sheridan.
Yeah.
But that's how he got his nickname. The other thing is that when I'm introduced to somebody, that will be their name. So Joel, if you went by the nickname Marty, and that's how you introduced yourself, for the rest of my life, you'd be Marty. You know what I mean? David on his resume wrote David, and I think introduced himself to me as David.
No,
so he's
no.
No? Okay.
I would never have. Nobody ever called me David unless I was in trouble, and usually my mother would call me David. She calls me David or Bobby because she has mixes name with my brother.
Bobby.
But nobody ever called me David. And all of a sudden, I started working at this company. And like, everyone's like, hi, David. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, why is everyone so
formal?
Call me David. And then like, everybody's name was like their full name.
I know. Steven. Well, people call me Steph.
Everybody calls you
Stephanie. When I was just listening to the Kristen podcast, and that child does not call me Steph ever. It's only Stephanie. And I was like, that's interesting. I never picked up on that.
So, but now I'm curious, do you want to be Dave? Like, is that what you go by, or what?
Oh, it doesn't matter to me. You can call me anything.
Joel, I try every once in a while to slip a Dave in there, and it's just like when my brother Colton tried to call me Steph, I was like, this just does not feel good. This does not feel right. Right, Bear? Bear just gave us a hump. He was like, my dad's name is David. But yeah, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else we need to touch on.
Well, we just had 4th of July. I hope everyone had a nice 4th of July.
Yes, we haven't even talked about why.
So yeah, we kind of alluded to last week's episode. We talked about the bet that Kristen rigged to win. That was around 4th of July. But I know that there's another significant 4th of July milestone for the two of you.
Yeah. So 4th of July is my favorite holiday. I love fireworks. I get so psyched. I'm like a little kid. So David and I had been together for 7 years.
At the time. About that. Yeah, 7.
And it was getting to that point where I was starting to whisper while he slept, like, please propose to me. This is getting old.
Can I ask you a question real quick? Because I don't know if you know this about me and Molly, but Molly proposed to me. So
I did know that, and I love that.
So I'm curious if that ever
followed her. You could have done that.
I'll kill you.
That's what I was just going to say. I was going to ask if that ever occurred to you, if you ever thought about.
No, I'm so old school.
Okay. Yeah.
So old school. Like maybe now with my level of confidence I would, but back then no, even though it was less than 4 years ago. So the threats are becoming real, and David proposed on the 4th of July, and it was so perfect and so funny. So we were at our amazing friends Jackie and Ryan's house. They were having a little bit of a get together. I had drank about 2 gallons of rosé and was feeling just funky. David's playing shuffleboard. Liz, my best friend Liz, is there. My brother Wyatt's there. Kristen was there too, right?
I don't think so.
I can't remember if she was there. I thought she was, but we've got kind of like a group with us. So David gets on one knee and I'm like, like words aren't coming out. And I look around for 2 seconds, and our friends whose house we just got engaged in are sobbing.
Aw.
This couple loves love so much. Sobbing. It's cried harder than we did.
Oh, wow.
I didn't tell anybody I was going to do it.
Oh yeah,
and
David didn't tell. They didn't know.
I didn't really know I was supposed to tell. I mean, I guess I should have told the host, but I mean, after he turned to me, he's like, "Really? You play shuffleboard?" I was playing shuffleboard competitively the whole night. She was by herself. Like I was playing. I was playing, huh?
I was with Liz and Wyatt.
You were separated from me. And then, the fireworks started going off, and I was like, well, this is the end of the night. I've held it off enough. I know she likes fireworks. And I did it. And like I said, he just turns to me. He's like, you could have at least just given me a heads up. And the funny thing was, too, there's a really...
In a sweet way. He was not being like...
Oh, no. Yeah, because it's like, it's a party. So it's like, it might... Yeah, I get it.
But I had a temporary ring on me. So it was it was a fake ring, a fake diamond ring. I was given it to me until the ring was ready. And I didn't know anything about it, like if it looked real or if it was like comically large. So I went to use it. I went to like put it on her finger and it wouldn't fit. So I'm like trying to jam it on her, pretty much almost degloving her finger. And I'm like, I can't do it. So I just left it on the first knuckle, and she takes it and she just goes, woof, and puts it straight over that knuckle. Like you could see the determination. Like she turned her hat around and like ripped it down. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. And this wonderful gentleman, Justin, who would know a diamond ring if he saw one.
He's fancy.
He's a very wonderful person. And he looks at the ring. Like this just happens and everyone's like, yay. And he looks at me and he looks at Stephanie's ring and he goes, Stephanie, if I were you, I wouldn't go get that ring appraised. And then I realized it was like the ring that Kobe gave his wife. It was like $4 million. It would have been like a $4 million diamond ring. And I had no clue. I was like, I got to get this. Like, this is happening. Like, I don't care.
Like, I love it.
It was great though.
And then it turned my finger green.
Oh yeah, it was definitely a temporary.
But speaking of engagement rings, we picked out my engagement ring and I loved it. But recently I've been going through this thing where like I just don't see how it at all represents David and I. And not like I'm like that sentimental, but it just like I look at it and I'm like, I can see that on a bunch of other women. So I'm actually redesigning it, but I can't tell you what it is because it's a surprise for David. But it is going to look very different and much more cool. And gold. I love gold.
Gold's great.
I love gold.
Is it not gold? Is it silver?
No, mine was silver. White gold.
White gold, yeah.
It's going to be cool.
So what? So you just had this plan the whole night. Like, what? It was just 4th of July. You wanted it to be at the thing. Like, what?
Well, there was the connection between, the night of the hookup, the bet, and then also it was her favorite holiday. And I was gonna do it earlier in the day. We were walking around the river, and Wyatt, her brother, came over around in the noon, around like noon or so. And he's like, do you mind if I like hang out for the day? And I'm like, we're like, sure. And he's like kind of hanging out on the couch. Like, I wouldn't care anyway. Like any other time, I wouldn't mind. I'd want him at my house. But then we're like, oh yeah, we're going to take like a walk down the river. And he's like, and Stephanie's like, why? Do you want to go? And he's like, sure. And I'm like, sure, let's bring everyone. Like, let's, because nobody knows, so I have it wrapped up in like a piece of legal paper in my pocket. And I'm like, all right, this is not going to happen. So I had it went from like noontime to midnight. I was like, this is,
it had to happen.
It was just funny. I was like, well, plan one is gone because I can't do it now.
And I think the coolest thing about
I should have just done it then, but definitely the nighttime was better.
The coolest thing about getting engaged was the next morning I looked at my hand and I was like, my world is fucking different now. Like I was just so excited.
I think it's upsetting that the guy doesn't get anything. Right?
I love you.
Equality.
What do you want?
I don't know.
You want a diamond?
No.
Okay,
but like, I engaged you with you got to carry around like something like, I don't know.
You want me to get a tattoo?
No.
Okay.
No, during the engagement. Like you're walking around with showing everybody your
there's
ring.
No male engagement ring.
No, there's nothing.
Yeah.
You could have. Ed Sheeran had one.
Well, good for him.
I know. He's so sweet.
It seems like he would have one.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Very soft.
Very soft.
And just to clarify,
Wonderful.
just because I want to be sure, at no point Kristen didn't have $50 riding on your proposal, right?
If there was a transaction, we got nothing of it.
Okay.
That's probably, that's the money she probably started to get that book published. That was the start of it right there.
Truth.
Yeah.
I really think she was there.
I don't know. I don't remember Liz being there.
Liz was definitely there. Wyatt was definitely there. I don't even know how we ended up there. It was fun though. I loved them so much.
They're great. It was a great night.
Mm-hmm.
There's also, it feels like the fireworks, if they were too loud, that could have really, you'd be like, will you marry me?
It was loud.
No,
it was, that's exactly what it was like. You couldn't hear anything. It was so loud.
Yeah. So
and also too, like, you've been drinking, like, it was a long
I heard
night.
Exactly what I wanted to hear.
I think the knee helps. I think the context is probably.
The knee helps.
Yeah.
The knee helps.
Yes.
It was very sweet.
No, that is very sweet. That's a good, yeah.
It was also so David.
Also, you didn't have a ring box? You had it wrapped in a legal pad?
It was wrapped in legal paper.
So the similarities of all the things I do in life, it's exactly like that. No preparation, no security, just rogue, lawless.
So how long did you know that you were going to propose? Like, when did you decide versus doing it?
Well, I always wanted to marry her. I was just...
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying, like, the actual, that proposal.
It was fast.
Okay. I'm just curious. Because you're saying, like,
probably...
the ring you had to order.
It was probably within a month.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because I realized that was the time. Yeah, because I remember I was having a conversation with my aunt about it, and it was probably the beginning of summer. Yeah. So it was like a month before. And, yeah. I knew that was going to go down at some point.
I knew within the first year. I think I proposed several times.
There were definitely some late night drunken, like, fine, you want me to marry you? I'll marry you now. Like, yeah, like I remember
this was a big point of contention for all my
I remember I took a paper clip and just like turned it into a ring, and I was like, here, let's do this right now. And you're like, no, it's not right.
So dramatic.
So dramatic.
And then you get married and you're just like, all those insecurities just go away. You're like, all right, cool. Like, it's kind of like going from high school to college when you realize that clicks and like popularity isn't as big of a thing, I guess. Like just life lessons.
What is interesting? Yeah, you get married and it feels like such a big thing to get married. And then when you're married, you're like, oh, it's nothing's different. Like, especially if you're living together, you're like, we just did more paperwork. Like there's.
I did the bare minimum. So we get Kristen to sign the marriage certificate and I have to send it to the state of Massachusetts to get authorized or whatever.
With my birth certificate.
With David's birth certificate. Two parts of the story. Number one, I forget to put a stamp on the card. So it gets sent back to us with like a please put postage on this. Number 2.
So we're getting close on time on where it needs to.
Oh yeah, we're almost getting there.
It needs to be back at a certain time. So we wait till the last minute. She sends it out, no postage. It comes back, so we're already 2 more days longer. Yeah.
So it comes in a manila folder, the marriage certificate. And I'm like, thank God. And I rip the marriage certificate out. God only knows where it is now. And I throw away the manila thing without like super looking through it.
Uh-oh.
So like a month later, David's like, hey, babe, have you seen my birth certificate? And I'm like, excuse?
Oh, no.
And he's like, have you seen my birth certificate? They said that it came with the marriage certificate. And I'm like,
yeah, it
long
seems
gone.
Yeah, so.
Never coming back. So I threw away his birth certificate and I was like, you can never divorce.
So there could be, yeah, I think it was a plan. So there could be somebody working. There could be a David Cavilla, somebody somewhere around. Someone might have got that.
He won't be as handsome as you.
Or as sweet.
That was
or
exciting. He could be sweet. We don't know. But that was another fun.
Sweet encapsulates all of that.
Yeah.
Like handsome, kind, colorful today.
I do
you
like
didn't
this
even
shirt.
comment on the shirt, right?
Yeah, I like
with
it.
Oh, my shirt?
Mm-hmm. It's very
nice.
fun.
It's polo.
It's polo.
It's Ralph Lauren.
Yeah, what is the design on it?
It's like
marlins and boats and a
I see
teddy bear.
palm trees, the teddy bear. That's like their like logo kind of thing. He's hanging out in there. I see a ship wheel, whatever that's called.
Steering
wheel. Yar.
Is it called a steering wheel on a boat?
They probably have some weird.
Yeah, I was gonna say boat. They always have boat names for everything, so it probably has.
They do.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up right now.
But yeah, you look ready to like hit the club. Like that's a sharp shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is definitely it's a bright. I have the matching sandals too, so when I wear this out, it's a lot.
A helm.
A helm. Oh yeah,
you knew
the helm.
It had to have. Yeah.
I knew. I was like, there's no chance in hell that this is. I was a boat person growing up, and by boat person, I mean my parents made me go to sailing camp.
Back to the 4th of July thing. I'd like to give out a little fun, kind of dangerous thing for everybody out there.
Ooh.
Something fun you can do. So growing up, there used to be this big party on the beach that I took you to in Marshfield and Hummerock. So my dad, when I was a kid, we used to go every 3rd of July. And they call him the Brillo Man. So everybody wanted the Brillo Man. So he grew up in Roxbury, like very poor. So they had to, make cheap ways of entertainment. So what you can do is you need to get some you can either get some twine or you get like piano wire, something like that. And you buy Brillo pads. There's different aughts, which are like the roughness of it. So you want the finest aught. I think it's 0-aught. So you take that and you tie your twine to it or your piano wire. You twist it around. You give it about 7 or 8 feet. And then you can light the Brillo pad on fire
and make fireworks.
And it lights on fire because it's very fine steel. And you twirl it and it shoots out flames. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but they probably go 30, 40 feet in the air, the flames. And you just whip it around in a circle and it eventually just burns out. But it's a whole bunch of, it's very exciting. Do not do it inside your house.
I was also going to say the views and ideas of Sweet David do not necessarily reflect those of Stephanie Knows Some Shit, the podcast. We are not condoning or suggesting that anyone do this. This is
lighting Brillo pads on fire.
David Knows Some Shit will have to come with a warning.
Yep. That sounds fun. We can't do that here.
Sure we can.
We live in the woods.
We live in Maine. You can do whatever you want.
Oh, dear God. I do have insurance on the house, like very good insurance, because I was like, you know what? This sounds sketchy. Just homeowning.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're almost out of time, but I believe there is a book that you would like to recommend / talk about.
I was going to say, I'm just being so sentimental, but I think I am sentimental when it comes to David. So one of
it's such a weird episode for me to be a part of it.
I know,
it's just you talking about me.
I know, babe.
It's like you're dying, right?
It's like a reverse roast on Comedy Central.
I know. Instead, I'm just like, fucking, there you go. But so we had gone to the Harvard bookstore in Harvard Square, and downstairs they have like a used book section.
So great.
And it was wonderful. Like, I just love books. So he and I had gone down there and we had looked at a bunch of books and then left without them. Whatever. And I forget if I just bought them for you, whatever, but I asked my dad, I was like, Dad, will you please take me to Cambridge to go to the bookstore? And he was like, yeah. And I was like super nervous. I was like, I bought him a gift. This was the first gift I ever bought him. So the book is Amuse-Bouche by Rick Tremonto. And when was it published? That's the question. I want to say like
maybe 2002.
2002. So it's vintage. It's a vintage book. But in it, I wrote, to David, keep finding the beauty in the little things. Love, Stephanie.
Oh.
Because I used to go into Stir, because at B&G, they would give line cooks a little bit of freedom, and you would be able to make an amuse-bouche that they gave out to certain guests. And, you know, I'd always be super, not nervous, but I put so much emphasis on it because I was like, this is something that, and most of the time I didn't even end up making anything. But I used to go over there and look for books. Yeah.
So that
was the inspiration for you buying me that.
And it's like not the worst book in the entire world.
They have caviar stairs. It's caviar stairs, I think.
Pretty solid.
It's of the times.
Yeah. Artichoke Barragoul.
There's probably some melon and prosciutto type thing.
Spoon of lobster ceviche with lobster oil and lobster roe. Yeah, just fucking amazing. Amazing. I love these books that are like 20 years old. But that's our little review for the day.
Nice. What are you two, because this will air after the 4th of July, but we're recording it before the 4th of July. What are you doing this year?
So for the past 2 years, it's rained on the 4th of July. So I'm just praying that there are fireworks. And then I'm going to try and convince my client, Kenny, to let me come over and watch them from his house because he has parking.
I'll go to BJ's and buy a case of Brillo.
Nice.
Yeah, perfect. And we'll just light some Brillo pads on fire. We'll teach the kids how to do that.
I'll get on a kayak and go out in the ocean. You guys can watch from the cliff.
The kids will love that.
Yeah.
That'll be cute, actually.
Make sure you get video. We'll post that on the Instagram.
Done. It might be his last video.
Well, it's nice.
It'll be my evidence.
If you're on the boat and you catch the boat on fire, then you sort of give yourself a Viking funeral. Like that's
the way
David is also
I don't go in the ocean. I don't go in the ocean.
David's petrified of the ocean. So
you don't see sharks. The sharks don't come on.
That's
land,
a whole episode. We honestly could have talked about
Should I tell the story? No, I can't tell that story, can I?
Let's finish up with a little story from David. This actually goes perfectly in with my stories. Please. Tell my favorite story in the entire world.
So the reason why I don't go in the ocean, I used to go in the ocean all the time. As a kid, I probably went to the beach 4 days a week in the summer. So like I'm in my late teens and I'm at the beach and, I'm sunbathing, you get hot. I'm like, I'm going to jump in, cool down. So I'm swimming and I'm like, in waist deep water and I'm like swimming along and I see like a flounder swim by and I'm like, oh man, a flounder. Like this is such a perfect day. Water's clear, everything. I go back under and I come up and I come out of the water and there's like seaweed stuck on my head. And I'm like, oh, so I like bat it off and it slides down my face and then it goes onto my shoulder. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I like look over and it's an old maxi pad that it must have floated. I don't know how it got in the ocean, but it landed on my shoulder and I'm like probably 40 yards out. It's like a really shallow beach. I'm 40 yards out. So I start screaming. I'm like, ah! And I'm running through the water. And you know how running through water is. Like, it's hard.
Yeah.
So I'm running through this waist deep water screaming. Like, people are like, it's happening. Jaws. Like, he's getting eaten alive. Like, everyone's standing up. And I'm like running. I get to my friends are like, what's going on? I'm like, a fucking maxi pad stuck to my face. And you just see everybody just go, oh, and everyone turns around and gets back to their towel. And I left and went home. But that's why I don't. And then one time at the beach,
Oh my God. This is the
one
poop
time at the
story?
beach too, I was seeing this girl and we were like, is this serious or not? And like, we're like walking on the beach and I'm like, sit down. And I go to sit down and I'm like, I think we should be a couple. And as I did that, I put my hand down to lay on the beach and I put my hand in a big pile of dog shit. And it's it's hot from the sun. So again, now I'm like, so I run to the water and like salt water does not wash off smells or like everything. So and salt water smell, like the ocean water smells anyway. So I'm wiping this dog shit off my hands with the salt water. And then I'm like, I go back to the conversation. I'm like, well, today's over. Like,
Did it work out? Like,
it worked out.
Guys, like,
yeah, it was official after that. But I'm like, well, I have to go home now. So again, I have to go home now. So I put my hand in the hot dog poop in the middle of like asking a girl if we're going steady. So those are reasons why I don't go in the water. I go to the beach, but I just don't go in it anymore.
You know what? That's fair. I think someone's trying to tell you something.
Make it valid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's don't go in the ocean. It's a lot more dangerous than you could even imagine.
I love that, babe.
Yes.
I love that.
All right. Well, this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this. I
still feel like we got nowhere. I still feel like we got nowhere.
Yeah, I don't feel like I know you any better.
But we'll come back. So I'll come back some other time.
Yeah.
I think David's really into the podcasting and might be like one of those people who just jumps on.
No, I just come every once in a while.
Yeah, that's like jumping on.
Okay, all right. I'm not down with your lingo yet.
It's industry terms. Those are.
Yeah. I got to get that industry. Podcast for dummies.
Industry.
Yeah. All right.
But thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. This was great.
And let's see, a closer today. I don't know, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We'll get back to you on the closer next week.
Don't go in the ocean.
Don't go in the ocean.
Yes, there it is. Stephanie Knows Some Shit is hosted by Stephanie Cmar and me, Joel Murphy, and produced by me. If you enjoyed the show, give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, and instead of a review, tell us about a meal that you ate or made recently. We'd love to read about it.
We Have to Ask. It's a podcast where we answer the question, are you going to eat that?
What will you leave behind?
Why get out of bed?
Will you be our neighbor?
I'm Marty.
And I'm Jonathan.
We're two hosts.
Infinite universes.
We have to ask.
New interviews every Tuesday.
Find us on iTunes or online at wehavetoask.com or with the other great podcasts on the Peaksloft Network at peaksloft.com.